External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar has landed in the United States, where he will be spending the next 5 days engaging with top United Nations and US officials. Jaishankar is going to be first meeting the United Nations, in fact, Secretary General. All eyes are on this big meeting, where he will meet the US Secretary of State as well then, Antony Blinken. Vaccine supply chain, global cooperation will all be in focus, since India is facing, remember, a glaring shortage amidst the second wave. Biden has announced that the US will provide 20 million doses of vaccines to the country. So amidst all the vaccine games being played by China, what can the US and India do? Should India procure US vaccines now? What should be on the agenda and what will be on the agenda of this visit by the Indian External Affairs Minister? We're going to be looking at all of that in the next half an hour. Let's quickly introduce panelists who are joining us live at this point on the broadcast. Ambassador Ashok Sajjanal, former diplomat; Padma Shri Dr. Mohsin Wali, cardiologist and physician; Ramit Pal Chaudhary, Foreign Affairs Editor, Hindustan Times; Professor Madhav Nalapat, Editorial Director of the Sunday Guardian. Professor Nalapat, let me begin with you first. It's a very important visit taking place at a time when India is still grappling with the second wave. What do you believe should be on the agenda when the Indian External Affairs Minister does meet with the United Nations Secretary General as well as the Secretary of State, the United States of America?
Well, I'd like to say that the entire whole of last year has been consumed by the problem of the pandemic, and selfless doctors such as Dr. Mohsin have done a tremendous job in trying to ensure that people are safe and that the population is safe from this pandemic. But I'd like to say that this is the number one issue facing the world. The second is today the possibility that this could have been a leak from a lab, and if so, what was any lab doing? Creating a virus, and then of course, somebody else says, okay, you create a nasty virus, and then we'll develop a vaccine for it. Does that make sense? I set your house on fire, and then I appear with the fire extinguisher, and then I say, I have the fire extinguisher. You have to pay me what I want, but I've set the house on fire. So very frankly, there are a lot of unanswered questions, even in 2021, the middle of 2021. And I do hope that Minister Jaishankar is going to be talking to the UN Secretary General, that the world expects answers from the United Nations. The United Nations is not just, if I may say so, a prisoner of the P5, as is commonly believed. The United Nations represents more than 200 countries. And each of these countries, almost all of these countries, would like to know exactly what happened and what is happening. Because let me tell you, we cannot get solutions for this pandemic unless we work out the origins and we trace the trajectory accurately. And for that, it has to be a global effort.
Well, in this era of virtual meetings, Ramit Pal Chaudhary, S. Jaishankar is obviously going to the United States with a purpose, and it's a physical meeting, obviously, with a clear agenda. Will that purpose be achieved? What's the sense you're getting from it?
I think the government is optimistic. The number one part of the agenda, in fact, I would argue virtually the only thing on the agenda, is supply chain issues regarding vaccines. India has the capacity to manufacture literally billions of vaccines, but it depends on a large number of ingredients, chemicals, special equipment, all imported from several countries around the world, the bulk of which are from the United States. And this includes even the Bharat Biotech Covovaxin, which is the most indigenized of them, but it still requires, for example, what is called an adjuvant, a booster chemical that is imported from Kansas. Without the American inputs, we cannot ramp up manufacturing. We can continue what we are already doing, about 100 million AstraZeneca and maybe 40, 50 million Bharat Biotech, but we cannot do any of the other vaccines, and we cannot boost and expand our production without these inputs. The Trump administration had put a lot of this under the so-called Defense Production Act, which is an advisory act, however, puts a priority on American requirements above all else. So my understanding is that the Indian side will basically say, put us on the same level as an American company. And the game is to not only argue which is what I suspect the minister's mission will be, that not only is it because India, as a member of the Quad and as a close American partner in the world, is essential for America's own geopolitical interest, but more importantly, the world is going to need a lot of vaccines. The WHO has calculated that even this year, if we were to try to close the pandemic down, we would need 11 billion vaccine doses, which is not simply going to happen. And we will need booster shots probably, given the speed with which the virus mutates, in which case you're still looking at another 6 to 7 billion doses every year, which means for the next 5 years, you're going to need 30, 40 billion doses of vaccines, which we are nowhere close globally to producing. And he will basically say, India has the capacity, but we need American assistance. In particular, we need American inputs. He will be mildly interested in buying vaccines, but given that most American vaccines are mRNA technology, which we do not have these cold storage facilities at present ready for, and the fact that mRNA vaccines are extremely expensive, and most of them are already booked well in advance, I don't see direct procurement being the priority.
Okay. Ambassador Ashok Sajjanah, before I get in Dr. Bali for a medical perspective, Ambassador Sajjanah, while we of course need these raw materials in abundance, we also need perhaps a segment or a certain proportion of the extra AstraZeneca doses that the US is willing to donate and provide to other countries. Do you believe that also should figure in this discussion of S. Jaishankar? And what do you hope will be on the agenda when he meets with Secretary Blinken and also the United Nations Secretary General? We're not being able to hear you, Ambassador Sajjanah. Okay, I'll just come back to you. Dr. Bali, come in here on what doctors are hoping for, on what medical experts are hoping for, what the health industry is hoping for. What do you believe this visit and these meetings will rectify?
Thank you, Uday, for bringing me in with this very learned panel, and I am very fortunate to be with them. And I would just say simply that I worked with Mr. Jaishankar, and while he was in President's Secretariat, and we are good friends. And what I anticipate is that we have to really place now our demand before the United States. This is one issue. And I fully agree with Excellency Mr. Madhav that this virus, as we have been discussing for a couple of programs in the past, we really have to find out what China is doing now. China is enjoying. China is showing its tourists going on the Great Wall of China in thousands. 6 lakh tourists have visited during the last holiday session in China, rejoicing, lights, and a mood of celebration. This was the time for China, as I have been speaking my heart to everyone, that this was a high time for China to come forward and to be part of the grief of the world. People are dying everywhere, in every nook and corner of the world, people are dying. And the virus, of course, no doubt, it was originated from the China. Theories of origin are apart. But this was high time China should have helped in everything. And also, as far as my medical responsibility is, I would say that China should have given us all the methods by which they have treated their such a great number of patients. So this was a time of sharing and caring, and there is totally irresponsible behavior from that side. So I think we have to make some diplomatic solution, or I would say rightly pressure from somewhere which is amenable to this catastrophe. And we are talking of third wave as well. So there are difficult days ahead. So for that, we have to replenish our vaccine stores. Obviously, as rightly said, that raw material comes from US. And we have to especially take some pediatric instruments that we have to import, actually, and because they are in shortage. So these are all diplomatic things. I'm a very small person to calculate the diplomatic requirements, and these people are good enough to tell you. But what I feel that raw materials, vaccine shortage, this all. You see, some countries have, including America, have a surplus vaccine storage. So if they can give us on loan, otherwise they will get on shelf expired. So every vaccine has a shelf life. So we can replenish them with the material taken from them. So this was one of the suggestions came in one of your previous programs, that those countries who have double the requirement of their vaccines and those vaccines are lying on the shelf, they have a shelf life. So Malawi destroyed vaccines, 20,000 vaccines. So a time may not come when these countries who have a surplus vaccine, they will be destroyed because they have a limited shelf life. So it is high time that India projects roughly a requirement before them, so they can replenish, they can supply us the surplus vaccine and we can replenish the same when we produce by the raw material which is supplied by them. This is a very important point in my mind, and this should be implemented. We have to get vaccine. We are short of vaccines. I have no reservation about committing it on your program, saying it on your program that we are short of vaccines. Buy, borrow, steal, we have to get vaccines. So it is first priority, and this is the prevention. This is the only solution for the suffering population. And third dose concept, as has been just said, by Excellency, is coming. So we will be drastically short of vaccines. So it is the time India gets all the advantage from that side.
Okay. Ambassador Satyanar, do we have you just here?
Yes, I think, I don't know whether I'm audible now.
Okay. Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, so to respond to the question that you had put, what I started by saying is that, for Dr. Jaishankar and for India and for the bilateral relations, of course, there's an extremely important visit because it'll be the first in-person meeting after President Biden assumed office. So the senior-most, one of the senior leaders of Indian cabinet traveling there, having a discussion not only with Secretary Blinken, but also it is reported also with NSA Jake Sullivan, and maybe some other ministers, think tanks, etc. So I think in that sense his engagements both in Washington, D.C. and New York are going to be important. And also after India assumed its position as a non-permanent member of the UN Security Council, also is the first visit and meeting with Antonio Guterres. So as all the other panelists have said, I think it is the pandemic, it is COVID-19, it is the vaccines that takes, the center stage, so to say. That will be the centerpiece of discussions. And as Dr. Mohsin Wali was saying very rightly, what we have heard and what has been reported in the press, and it has also been reported that President Biden has mentioned, that possibly the United States has about 60 million plus vaccines, AstraZeneca vaccines, in its inventory, in its storehouse. And there is no approval that has been accorded as yet, no emergency approval also for using AstraZeneca in the United States. And it is said that it is unlikely because they have the Moderna, they have the Pfizer, they have the J&J. So it is very unlikely that AstraZeneca is going to get an approval there. So all of them are going to go waste unless they are used very, very quickly. And President Biden seems to have said that they will, send it out, ship them out to Mexico, to Brazil, to India, the countries that are using AstraZeneca. So I think there, if we can get about 20, 30 million, at least to meet our immediate needs and requirements, because I am confident today we are at the end of May. I think by the end of June or July, our production will be on stream. So, I don't want to repeat what the others have said. We get all the raw materials, we get all the inputs to do all these things. But I think other issues that are going to be discussed, both with Secretary Blinken as also with Antonio Guterres, I think is how to deal with China. I think this is something that, in my view, is definitely going to come up because there is now increasing evidence, maybe not scientific evidence as such, but definitely increasing circumstantial evidence that the virus either accidentally or intentionally escaped from a laboratory in Wuhan, from the Wuhan Institute of Virology. And even if it did accidentally, why did China not take any action? Because the first indication that there was a possibility of a human-to-human transmission. That came to light on the 6th of December, but it is only 6th December 2019, but it is only on 20th January 2020 that China came out to the world and said, yes, there is a possibility of human-to-human transmission. In that period, so many thousands of people had left Wuhan and traveled all around the world. So if China wanted, it could really have controlled the pandemic and limited it only to its own country, to its own region. So I think this issue, and which WHO has really not been able to handle to the satisfaction of the world community, of the global community. I think it was truly a farce what we saw when this team of doctors and so-called independent researchers went there. And they said that it was most unlikely it had come out, the virus had come out of the laboratory. But then they said it is possible, it could have come from the wet market, it would have come from the frozen foods, etc. So I think a truly independent, transparent investigation into the origin, because not only is this required to deal with the virus as it is afflicting the whole world today, but also to deal with subsequent pandemics. I think it's absolutely essential that we come to know how it went out into the open. Uday.
Okay, Professor Nalapat, with once again the US leading the clamor for an investigation, with Joe Biden, Anthony Fauci commenting once again, is this an opportunity also for India, through S. Jaishankar, to throw our backing completely behind the United States for this independent probe as well, to get to the bottom of the origins of the coronavirus?
Well, it's backing for humanity, all of humanity, because the whole of humanity is affected by what happened at Wuhan in 2019. I'd like, since we have a very distinguished medical expert here, I'd like to add one more point to this debate, which unfortunately has been forgotten by the WHO. And, the WHO is regarded as gospel by countries across the world, which basically follow WHO guidelines. In the case of India, for example, recently the ICMR has said that certain treatments are useless. Well, Indian doctors found that out many months ago, but until the WHO said so, no action was taken on stopping these treatments. I'd like to say therapeutics are extremely important. Let's not forget the AIDS pandemic, and AIDS is 100% fatal, unlike this particular virus, which is at most about 3% or something fatal. That is brought under control by therapeutics, mostly from India. Now you have one particular company in India called Cipla. In fact, tens of millions of people in Africa are basically have their lives rescued because of the generic drugs produced by Cipla. Now, I'm very certain not just 2 companies or 3 companies, but 10, 15 companies in India can produce good vaccines. And the point is, the last 1 year, we have really seen, the same 2 or 3 companies. And more importantly, during the earlier government, the public sector companies that were producing vaccines were shut down by the Manmohan Singh government, which is completely unexplainable. So I want to say one thing, Uday. So the last point I'd like to make here, there is a lot of data coming out there. And let me say, Ambassador, these are data from scientists, and the inferences drawn by scientists are very scientifically drawn. And now more and more scientists are coming out. They're no longer afraid that some very important person in America or in Geneva or somewhere else is going to punish them for speaking the truth. And they're finally speaking the truth. The fact is, across India, selfless doctors, nurses, medical professionals have put their lives at risk by testing different types of medicines for this horrible disease. And they have found some to be very effective. Whether, it need not only be allopathic, it can also be from other traditional items of medicine, but they have been found to be effective empirically. And ultimately, science is driven by empirical data. And I'd just like to say, let's shake this dependence on the WHO and let's go ahead and do what we are doing, what we have done best, not only producing vaccines, but discovering therapeutics that possibly already exist and that can bring down the incidence of disease and the fatalities of the disease.
Okay, before I get Pramit in on the visit once again, Dr. Bali, would you want to react to that?
I fully agree, because the WHO has been misguiding the world. I would say very frankly, because I would do talks like this in the morning every day, initial days. I was the first who started talking on this virus on the day one. And for several weeks, the WHO did not give any solution to the problem that there were questions raised on the flights, there were questions raised on the mask. And it went on telling, no, it's not a droplet infection. It spreads through the fomites. This was the greatest disaster which has happened. And repeatedly, we were asked to repeat. Although I was taking masks, I bought the mask, imported masks when they were available in the beginning of the pandemic. But we were asked to speak that masks are for the medical profession and the ordinary people don't need to wear masks. While we forgot in the last pandemics like this, all the people have worn masks. There were historical pictures of the masks, horrid-looking masks, which were in the past used for various pandemics like this. Spanish influenza was one example. So this was the greatest mistake. And now they are saying, then I started saying we are double mask. I'm very happy that this has been followed in India at least, because we have N95 in shortage, so we can wear the ordinary surgical double mask or one surgical, one N95, the ideal combination. Then things about medicines, then even our journals, Lancet had to withdraw some articles and then reprints were withdrawn and then republished due to the misunderstanding. We have certain things which we can develop de novo. We have developed, our Ministry of Defense has developed the 2DG glucose, which is working fantastically in mild cases, I would say with the caption, mild cases. So all this is happening in India. We have been the biggest and largest producer of vaccines. I've been telling throughout 2020, I've been telling, and in January, the luckily vaccine came, we produced vaccine and now we are in immense need of vaccine. So therefore there is a shortage. So that will be met. I'm very confident in a couple of months that would be over. So we have time limit up to December that we should vaccinate maximum people, then including third wave, including children. And so many new things have happened in India during this pandemic. We have learned from Bangladesh also that they used a combination of doxycycline and ivermectin. Then we were the first to try that in our country with a great benefit. So all these things, I fully agree with Mr. Madhav that we should not depend on anything. We can produce things at our own. India has shown to the world that we were first in so many things. So we can be first in treating this disease also. The other thing is that our people have to be disciplined. Our people have not shown a good example of discipline. That is why I'm saying here as a doctor that my patients do not follow what I tell them. I don't go anywhere else. So we have to be serious. Our children have to be serious. They don't have to get foods from the market. This is, one thing I'm telling at this platform. All the children, for some time, they should stop getting food from market. Stop eating junk food. Stop eating foods from market. And don't get boxes from market. This is happening in every home, at least in cities. And third thing, I'm coming to the village side. We have been a little loose in dealing with the village population. Now we have to concentrate on villages. You see, third wave or no third wave, we have to save lives from for the villagers. We have to really develop the infrastructures, as was told by Honorable Mr. J.P. Nadda in the recent revised national health policy. So this is very important. India lives in villages, so we have not to forget that population. You see, things look different while we talk about the statistics during the daytime. I have been speaking on the statistics which we received from the government of India. But what about villages? Villages have to be protected. Our farmers are joining this agitation and all. I don't know how that reflect. But
and there is this talk of a third wave which we want to avoid. Pramit, are you hopeful that though the relationship that we share with the US, that they will come to our aid? that obviously this meeting has one clear agenda, that it will yield results, which is why a physical meeting, as I said earlier, not a virtual one, despite the parameters.
Oh, yes. Well, President Biden has already announced that the AstraZeneca stocks that America has will be released to the world. We have to still find out how much of that will be released to India specifically. But keep in mind that even if large numbers are, for example, released to Africa, since we were supposed to provide AstraZeneca from our production lines to Africa, it'll still mean more for us. But yes, we fully expect that most of the reports indicate that 20 to 30 million of America's AstraZeneca will probably be sent to India to help us bridge the gap between now and roughly August, when our production levels start to take off. Jaishankar has already met Blinken, I should mention, at the G7 foreign ministers meeting. And the reports from that were that Blinken was initially at the court meeting, just a few minutes, about half an hour, 45 minutes. But of that half an hour, of that 2/3 of the discussion was vaccines. And Blinken definitely was positive, but as a State Department head, he doesn't necessarily control vaccines. But my suspicion is that in Washington, when he meets, Jaishankar will get the other parts of the government to support him.
It's integral, Ambassador Sajjanar. It's integral because our vaccination pace is sluggish. A lot of the countries worldwide have pre-booked their vaccines already, which is why orders will take their time coming from global giants like Sputnik, and whenever Pfizer, Moderna, and J&J get their approval, which is why we do need the US's help currently, Ambassador Sajjanar, to prevent.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, I agree with you, and I agree with all the other panelists who have said, I think vaccines is if there is any silver bullet as far as controlling the pandemic is concerned, and particularly as far as the comparatively younger set, 18 to 44 years, I think we need many more vaccines, millions of vaccines. And I think that is what the discussions are principally going to be about as far as the US administration is concerned. In terms of face-to-face meeting, if my memory serves me correctly, although Jaishankar was in London, but he participated in the G7 in a virtual mode because there were issues about two of those who were traveling with him, members of the delegation, that had been tested. So in a strict sense, the face-to-face, this will be the first face-to-face between the two ministers. It is, although they were in the same city, but still it was a virtual meeting between the two of them, and a virtual meeting with EM Jaishankar and the other G7 plus two members who were there. But that having been said, I think it's a very important visit. It will give an opportunity to, because of also the media attention that has been given to India, I think it will be an opportunity also for Dr. Jaishankar to reach out to the very wide spectrum and segment of population in Washington, D.C. and in New York, particularly as far as business is concerned, as far as think tanks are concerned, and as far as media is concerned, to give out the Indian narrative, to give out the Indian point of view that, okay, when it came in rather suddenly, the second phase. But the manner in which we have moved in, of course, with the help of the international community, and the whole international community has said that it is because India moved out and helped the world when the world needed it, including the United States. That is why they have come out so readily to help India when India needed the help. So I think this is a multi-spectrum visit. It is, of course, vaccines and China and COVID is going to take center stage, but there are other elements of the visit also.
Involved as well. All right, we'll be keeping a close eye on, of course, this visit and meetings. But for the time being, my thanks.